So it occurred to me that in the video that I did about the female body images, I did point out several of the times or a couple of the times where Mineta does try to be perverted. So I just thought I'd do a little shorter video about the various times where Mineta gets punished, basically, for the way that he acts. So I just kind of made a list of the ones that I could remember and from what I remembered from recent stuff. So we'll just go over those real quickly and yeah. So the first time that we kind of see him get punished in regards to like him being a pervert is, of course, when they're at the USJ, and it's after they've managed to escape the boat, after him and Sue and Izuku have managed to escape the boat, and they're currently watching as like Izawa is fighting against Shigaraki. And Mineta, of course, has his very perverted moment where he like is holding on to Sue and he's like holding on to her boobs, and I just and I love her action to just like and shove him in the water, just like drowns him in the water. And it's like we go from this like very serious stuff that's going on to Mineta being a pervert and him getting shoved in the water back to the serious thing, and then of course others, so many other serious things happen in that time frame. And then, of course, there's basically this just habit that ends up developing that Sue does, that any time that, like, Mineta does something perverted, Sue just basically lashes her tongue out and, like, whacks him upside the head or across the face or whatever the case may be. And so we have that happens multiple times throughout the beginning of the series. And then there's, of course, the moment where, as I mentioned, in the locker room, where he is, trying to peep through the hole in the wall into the girls' locker room, and he gets jabbed in the eye by Jiro's earphone jack. For that, which is just funny to begin with, and it's just like, yeah, no, you deserve that. And then he's also been like jabbed into the head with it too, where he just is, just being perverted in general. And Jiro's just like, and jab him in the head, and like force her heartbeat through her thing, and like makes him fall over and everything. She does this to like Denki as well, a few times. She mainly does it to Denki and Mineta, but Denki does not act nearly as perverted as Mineta. And then we also have he's been tied up by Sue, I think, a couple of times, where he gets just like tied up in a bag, and it looks like he's hanging from the ceiling or something like that like Sue does. And like everybody else is just like, no, he deserves it. And then in the first movie that they did, the Two Heroes movie, when they're having to climb up the tower, during the whole, the main center of the movie, where they're trying to, get through the tower, and to try to get to the control room at the top, Mineta has to like climb the outside of the building at one point to get to like a hatch and let them in. And like his like whole motivation to get up the side of the building is harem, where he's just like plucking the balls off of his head and like climbing up the wall. Admittedly, climbing that way is a very good way for him to use his quirk. I'm not going to deny that part. That's a very good way of using his quirk. Problem is that it's like anybody else can't really follow him up that way, but because like they would stick to the his pop-off balls that he has. But the other side of that is like, if someone did try to climb up after him, they would just get stuck on those anyway. If it's like a villain trying to chase him, they would get stuck on those, if they didn't have a way to get rid of them. And then, of course, when they're at the training camp and he tries to, do the same thing where he tries to climb over the wall to look into the girls' side of the hot spring, he also gets punished for that by getting literally knocked off the wall by Koda in his attempt to try to look over the wall and see the girls, which is just funny. And then he gets, when they're doing the room contest, he does the very perverted thing where he's like trying to, the girls come into my room and everything. And I went over this in the dorm rooms video where I talked about that. And he, was just like, nobody wants to go into his room. We're just like, nah, nope. Whose room is next? Nope. I have no idea what's in that other room over on the end of the hall. Moving on. And like he just like ends up being perverted, of course, when he's in Toru's room, when they're in Hagakure's room. He's like perverted in there with like, trying to get into her drawers. And then he just gets like wrapped up in like Sero's tape and like dragged around the rest of the time, which is just kind of funny. I just find that funny. Sero's just like, nope, ties him up. Denki and Mineta are the two that we mainly see have the perverted streaks. Although I will probably chalk the fact up to the fact that we're not as annoyed by Denki with it is because A, he doesn't do it as often, and B, Mineta does give off the creepy vibes a lot more than Denki does. Um, and at the very least, Denki has not tried to climb over the wall and peep in on the girls, and he has not tried to, look through the peephole of the wall at the girls. So he at least gets those marks, where Mineta doesn't. And then we just have the moment where Mineta technically hits on Eri when Eri comes to visit them at the dorms for the first time. When Mario is showing her around, he technically hits on her because he's like, "Hey, you'd be cute in a few years." I'm just like, oh, okay, moving on past the creepy small child. And then he gets when they're doing the class versus arc where they're going up against class 1B and such, where they're doing that joint training exercise there. He ends up, he's on the same team with Izuku and Mina and Ochako. And, he's on their team. And, the four of them, have worked out a good plan and everything. And at one point during the course of the plan, where they're trying to take out the other team, the annoying team, well, most of the other team is fine. Since, Shinso's fine and such, it's more just Monoma that's the annoying one there on that team. The rest of the team is fine. It's Monoma that's the annoying one. But what ends up happening is, of course, Mineta is, he's placed all of his, pop-off balls all over the place, and he's, bouncing off of them, because it's, he doesn't stick to them, of course, but if anybody else touches them, they'll get stuck to them. And, he's, jumping all around, bouncing all around the place, and he ends up slamming into Mina, and I will buy that it was 100% an accident, but he even admits that it's a lucky accident for, his head gets pushed up by her boobs. And then she just, whacks him away, and he's just, flying, and then he just, bounces off all of his, all the pop-off balls all over the place. So that's just kind of funny. And the payoff for that is, after they finish with that, when they're all finished with the joint training with Class 1B, when they're fighting, when they're battling against each other, that they're all just, hanging out in the dorm room after, the dorms after that at that Heights Alliance. And, Mina has, Mineta, strapped to a chair with a straight jacket, and his eyes are, forced open, and she's, forcing him to watch probably, something about, sexual harassment and how it's wrong. So we get that. We have a few bits in the second movie, the Heroes Rising one. We have a moment in there where Mineta is trying to hit on these two girls after he saved them by using his pop-offs to protect them from two other creepy boys that were trying to hit on them. But then they go after they're just oh, thank you, and they're actually talking to Ojiro instead, because he's oh, he's the cute boy, you're something that I would like to punt. So we have those moments where Mineta gets punished, which is just kind of funny. But in Mineta's defense, because I do sometimes play the devil's advocate side of things, in Mineta's defense, he does take his role as wanting to become a hero very seriously. Unfortunately, that role is also heightened by the fact that he's doing it because he wants to end up having a lot of girls pay attention to him, because no girl ever paid attention to him when he was in middle school, because he was always looked upon as creepy and short, and why would anyone want anything to do with you? I know there's a lot of fan fictions out there where Mineta doesn't exist, or where Mineta gets expelled because of his actions, or different things like that. And there's other ones out there where Mineta actually is a better character, where he is, less perverted. Still a little bit perverted, but not nearly on the level that he is in the actual story. And I really don't know where I fall with that. I'm okay with stuff where he's not there and Shinso's in Class 1A instead, or someone else is in Class 1A instead of Mineta. And then there's also other ones where it's just okay, yeah, sure. I know there's other ones where they make Mineta gay, or there's ones where, or based on certain things that have, that he supposedly said in the manga, based on how they're translated, that he supposedly has a crush on Izuku. I don't know where I stand on that. If it's Horikoshi's intention to make Mineta bisexual or something like that, then that's fine. That's entirely what the author wants to do. But I'm also just like, he hasn't shown anything that implies that up to this point, so I don't know what to say about that. It was like when he was like trying to, when they were fighting Izuku, trying to, catch Izuku and everything. Mineta said that he like fell for Izuku or something like that. I would just more put it as like he started to have a lot more respect for Izuku than that, but I might be wrong on that. I don't know. We'll see how that ends up getting translated into the anime down the line. That'll probably be in like season 7 or something, depending on how the season like 6 goes. But we'll see what happens with that. Mineta does also have his moments where it's just like, he does push himself because he does want to become a hero, and he's kind of one of the ones where it's like him physically pushing himself with his quirk is literally ripping off his pop-off balls to the point where his scalp is bleeding because he's ripping them off so quickly that it's causing a lot of, he's having to use a lot of endurance to keep producing them. And we see that a fair amount throughout the series. He stated that was like how sticky they are based on his diet and stuff like that. So he probably, depending on stuff, he probably has to pay a fair amount of attention to his diet, in all honesty. And I know there's other stuff where it's like, oh, if like Mineta was like taller and more handsome, then we would be more willing to, allow for his pervertedness, or if he was cuter or something. My main reference in regards to like perverts in that way is like Sanji from One Piece. I have issues with Sanji, but I still like Sanji. But I'll just leave that there. But, Sanji and Brook from One Piece. But I'll just leave that there. But Mineta has his moments where he will go to the nth degree like he's supposed to because he wants to be a hero and he does want to protect people. So, Mineta gets that, but it is also just hilarious watching him get punished for what he does when he gets, stared down by any of the boys, or, stared down by, any of the girls, or punished by any of the girls, whacked upside the head, tied up in a bag, wrapped up in tape, jabbed in the neck by Jiro. Take your pick. It's just funny whenever any of that type of stuff happens. Because it's just like, yes, you deserve this. But you can get better. And if Mineta improves, then he gets credit for that. But that was just basically where I wanted to put for this just short little video in regards to that. Now I'm actually just going to go and record the injuries and scars video for the My Hero body image one, since I wanted to go over some of the various injuries and scars that the characters have had over the course of the series. So I'm going to go record that. This video is actually not going to have a quote on the end of it because I couldn't think of a quote that I wanted to use for this. So, I thank you very much for watching the video, shorter video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye!